right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe, and this morning it's Beneficiary Tuesday, by the way, and we want to talk about something that most of us really just waste time or talk about when it's already too late, and that's retirement. And we want to ask the question, when is the best time to start, planning for retirement? How do we plan for retirement? Such questions. And George Oyuga, that is Director, Retirement Solution, Kuza Asset Management Limited, is here to help us with this conversation. To do any VP, we can properly plan for our retirement. Karibu sana to TV47.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's always a pleasure come back here again.
All right. Yeah. I want us to break the ice. When we're talking about planning for retirement, people most of the time think about this just being about saving money, but looking at it from the broader perspective, planning for retirement, what does it entail, in the broader length?
Okay, good. Let me start by saying planning for retirement is a statement that you believe in long life. Yeah, and you're also cognizant of the fact that at some point, these earnings that you have, either payslip or the job that you do or your personal business, will require that you actually exit. So what one needs to do is to say that I may exit the job, but I don't want to exit the pay. So as I plan for retirement, I am saving to replace this income with another income. That is the income we either call pension, or we call annuity, or we call drawdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically the end goal is to guarantee full-time, lifetime enjoyment.
Exactly.
So what are really the spectrums of, retirement? Because a lot of people think that people who plan for retirement are mostly those who've been in the market, in the job market for too long, those who are too old to be here, and people who are just too tired. So what are the spectrums of retirement?
Okay, those who are in formal employment have a privilege because most of the time the space is a bit structured. But everybody who receives an earning can be salary, earning can be wages, earning can be income from your business, earning can be from any other source, provided there is money in. And because we all need money at this phase in life, we must always remain conscious that we will still need money even in that other phase of life. So it's just a matter of planning, and we have tools, we have structures, we have schemes. It is more clearer, elaborate on the formal side of things, but the legislative structure and the infrastructure for retirement planning in Kenya allows for even those who are in the informal sector, they can still plug in because we have pre-retirement value proposition that favors individuals. We call them individual retirement plans. Or personal pension plans. Then we have small entities, SMEs, Yeah, so those ones have what we call the umbrella retirement arrangements. Then we have the corporates now, well-established corporates. Those ones have what we call the occupational retirement arrangements. And each of those different spaces has its own set of regulations, meaning that the space is well defined in terms of governance. The space is well defined in terms of even how the whole structure needs to roll. So nobody has an excuse because it's me and you who will retire. Our organizations will be there. They'll take in someone new. So it's individuals who must take it upon themselves to do the planning.
And now that brings me to this question now. When do we need to start, planning for retirement? At what age? A lot of people, we start working at around the age of 24, 23, thereabout. But in the Kenyan context, when you're looking at the job market, sana for those who are in the civil servants, probably 60 is the age. But when do we really need to start preparing for retirement?
Okay. I would say when retirement starts has been defined, because the minimum retirement age is 50. But when it starts, it should actually match when your first income starts to flow in. So for some people, maybe you finish in school by age 25, you have, an income. So at that particular point, start immediately. Because the moment you start earning any income, on the other side of things, start also planning on how to replace it. Yeah, so it should be immediately you start earning. So there's no age per se, but the journey is more gradual, and it is not very steep for those who start early.
Yeah.
If you start a bit late, you make your journey a bit very, very steep. Yeah. So the idea there is start as early as you can. As
early as now.
Yes.
And you know, somebody watching might also wonder that if we're talking about from my first salary, now I should start thinking about retirement. So practically, from the salary that I'm getting, for instance, how much should be going towards the planning for that retirement? How much goes to short-term investments, and how much now should go to my savings?
So then that means that you are already discussing a budget structure to say, when I receive my money, there's a way I want to dance with it, such that I am able to position what needs to be positioned. What goes into recurrent expenditure goes to recurrent expenditure. What goes into my planning for retirement also goes to planning for retirement. So ideally right now, if I was to peg it on what we have with the NSSF Act number 45 of 2013, it has pegged it at everybody needs to save at least 12% of their earning any given month. So how that is split is such that you can do 6% as an employee and then another 6% as the employer. So at the bare minimum, let's peg it there. But I know when people are doing their retirement structuring, they approach it from different perspectives. There are those who are looking at it from a cost perspective. Then there are those who are looking at it, which is right, look at it from an income adequacy perspective, where you're able to model, if I begin here at 6% employee, 6% employer, or if I'm an individual, I should actually do 12% because there is no employer, either because I'm self-employed or I'm in a gig, you know, whatever it is, at least 12% is being saved aside, put aside for your retirement planning. Yeah.
You've talked about NSSF, and I understand it's one of the types of retirement. But can we say that it's really secure? Is this something that we can bank on and say that it guarantees a lifetime enjoyment? Because we say that retirement basically is for life. You're looking at it in the long term. But can we say that NSSF is something that will guarantee me safety for life in terms of just finances? I wouldn't be looking at my kids and wanting them to pay, what do they call it? There's a way they call it when, you know, black tax. That's the one. So does it really guarantee full-time and lifetime enjoyment?
Remember what I said earlier on about adequacy. So up to NSSF Act number 45 of 2013, we were struggling with adequacy because I would save 200 bob, you would save 200 bob, employer saves 200 bob on your behalf. So in total, it's only 400 shillings that was going into retirement planning. Because that would not be sufficient for those who are retiring under that particular old regulation, this new regulation came in to address that, to say that if now people can do 12% of what they are earning, then we can address the income adequacy challenge. So today, as we speak, I would want to confirm that yes, it is a safe space. I would want to confirm that with those rates, or either if someone is doing over and above that, you have the guarantee that you can actually now have a more comfortable retirement with a better income replacement ratio. You know, currently in our country, and a survey was done that says we are at around only 30%. That means if you're earning 100K by the time you retire, many people are replacing that income by only 30%. So that means you'll be earning what? Only 30,000 in pension. So the question is that adequate, you know? So everybody needs to be able to map where they are, where they have started, to ensure that whatever I am building towards will replace my income by up to 70 or 75%. That is the safest. ILO puts it at 40, bare minimum. So if you look at the average Kenyan today, we're actually doing even lower than the ILO threshold, which is a bit sad. And that's why I say thank you for such conversations. in the breakfast show. Yeah.
So I want you to just clarify on something. For somebody who's watching there at home, if you use that 30,000 Kenyan shillings as an example, we say I contribute this 30,000 shillings to my pension plan or just retirement plan. Does it mean that once I retire, I expect to get that 30,000 Kenyan shillings per month? Or there's a way that it's calculated and it can come at 60,000 or 100,000? Is it standard that the 30,000 that I contributed is the one that will come in every month?
Well, when you contribute into a retirement arrangement, one of the advantages you have is that you are contributing into a space and your money will be invested. So when your money is invested, the accumulation of your retirement conversations or arrangement will be the sum total of what you have saved in. If there was an employer also in the picture, what the employer puts in, then these monies are invested. And the government is so good and kind in that when you are doing the initial contribution, you are exempted. That pension contribution up to 30,000 currently is exempted from pay-as-you-earn tax, meaning you are saving what has not been taxed. Then when these monies are also again in the scheme, the income generated from the investment activities with these savings is also tax exempt. Then at the end of the journey now, when you now get to a stage we call decumulation, again there are the tax concessions. So if you are putting in now at the threshold of around 12%, depending on where you have started, your age before retirement, you will actually be able to target to build a retirement pot that can replace your income by a certain percentage. And everybody needs to focus on what they are looking at. Generally, without going into so much mathematics, I would say you would get a pension that is an average of around 1% of your total savings. So if you save around $1 million, your monthly would be around 10,000. Yeah, so that is what one now needs to work towards. If
you save 30,000, it can come at 30 bob.
No. If you save 30,000, I can do the maths here very quickly. Yeah, you're saying 30,000 for what period?
Say, is it per month, the contribution?
Yeah, the contribution is per month. Yeah, so if you're doing 30,000 shillings.
Yes.
And that's actually at the maximum of what is tax allowable, which means you're doing very well, is it? Yeah, so how many years will you have worked? On average, 30?
Yes, 30.
30 years? Yeah, so that means that...
we are talking about 1%.
1% of? Or 1% of what you'll have saved. Obviously. Yeah, your maturity amount, saving 30,000 per month, averaging investment return at 12%, and you've done that for, let me say, 29 years. You will have saved a total of 93,600,000.
Guaranteed enjoyment.
Guaranteed enjoyment.
And you know, I was reading a certain article, George, and it was saying that Kenyans are one of the poorest retirees, not in Africa, but in the world.
Yeah.
Is that true? How true is that, and why? Would that article really just say that we as Kenyans, you know, we do have civil servants, we contribute towards NSSF, but we are still one of the poorest countries, retirees, you know, in the whole world?
It's a sad thing, by the way, and those statistics cannot be too far from the truth. Why? And that's why those terminologies like black tax are finding their way into our day-to-day conversations. It's because people are finding themselves in retirement, but because they didn't plan very well, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you did not really save a lot, then it means that you don't have that fallback. So if you are actually replacing your income by around, on average right now, between 26 to 30%, depending on what someone was putting aside, then it means that you did not foresee that the target I'm working towards will actually fall short of the target I should be working towards. Because I should be working towards a target that whose 1% is actually 70% of my income. That should be your target. If the contribution structure or rates that have been set by your scheme do not get you there, we have another lane. I call it the service lane of retirement planning. It's called additional voluntary contributions. You are able to now top up what is there so that you still work towards a particular goal, because everybody needs to map out what kind of retirement do I want. It's not what the employer says, it's not what the government says, because for a very long time, up to 2013, we had the government giving us a formula that would only amount to you saving 200 bob and the employer saves 200 bob on your behalf. So 400 shillings, I'm saving for retirement. Definitely, the end was very obvious that we would get to those statistics where we have so many people who are poor in retirement. And that means that then they will start relying on social structures that are not there. Because social structures before were that you would give birth to a good number of children, then they'll take care of you. That has changed. We are not there anymore because number one, first of all, we have reduced the number of those children.
Some are not having them.
And some are not having them at all. So where are we? We are like, of course, that particular option is not available anymore. We have the government, for example, taking care of the older generation. Do we have a budget? We don't, you know? Yet, so many things are changing. People are living longer today than it was before. So access to medical health means that lives are longer. People have better ways of managing stress. People have, I would say, they work towards living longer, which is actually the truth today. So if you don't plan for that after work period, chances are that you'll join those statistics.
Of the poorest
of the poorest retirees.
Now that we say that Kenyans, we are one of we are among the countries in the world that have the poorest retirees. So what are some of the mistakes that we as Kenyans make when planning for retirement? That from where you sit, you would say that you know we are doing this the wrong way, and we should now shift gears to now start planning this way for us to now get out of that list of one of the poorest retirees.
And it's a bit sad because there's an economy that we thrive on, which we say, if these particular people visit us during summer, things are good. And we call them tourists. But the profile of those people, most of them are retirees. So it means that retirees from a different economy are actually coming to inject life to our economy, whereas our own retirees are nowhere even close. The mistake we've always done is failing to take charge of our own retirement journeys. We have left it either for the government through those who used to only rely on NSSF. We have left it to our employers who may have approached that subject from a cost perspective. We have also left it for maybe fate and our children. So if we could take charge of planning our own retirement, then we even reduce the burden that would be there either in the society or in our immediate families, because society is shrinking day by day. Individualism is taking over. Right now, my grandma can be sleeping hungry when there is a party next door, because that communal association that used to be there earlier is not there anymore. So we need to approach things differently.
And you know, we're talking so much about those in the formal employment, but I want us to also just include those that are in informal sectors, those with their own businesses, so that we can balance this conversation. What are the available options for them in terms of preparing for a pension scheme? Where can they now say, I'm starting to save on this particular scheme? Not necessarily NSSF, but what is available for them? We have three pillars for retirement planning. There's the state pillar where we've mentioned NSSF. There is the individual pillar where we mentioned the personal pension plans and individual retirement arrangements. And then there is the corporate pillar. So if you are privileged to tick the box on each of these pillars,
NSSF, of course, being the very first one, statutory, you know, that one means that everybody should be able to tick the box on that. Now, to at least boost whatever it is that NSSF is doing for you, based on that journey I talked about, map your own journey and say, by the way, for mine, I need to target this amount. Now you will be able to complement the NSSF structure with either your individual. If not, then you also doing the corporate one. So these guys are not employed. So the occupational one will not be there.
Yes.
So that means they are left with the individual. Individual is accessible to anybody, and you can be able to plug into whatever individual retirement arrangement we have in Kenya. They're quite a good number, over 30, almost 40 registered schemes, which one can actually plug into. And as they plug into that, then definitely they'll now take the retirement agenda to be their agenda. And that's where success begins. Yeah.
So for the personal pension fund, would you say that they have a limit, you know? If you're talking about pay after retirement, do they pay me until my money ends, or do they come up with a structure where now they can still pay me a good amount of money until the time I die? How does it work?
Well, there is normally a conversation at the end of your saving journey, because the next phase begins, which we call the decumulation stage. So at the decumulation stage, you have certain options that you can make. Option number one is to choose, when does my decumulation start? If I'm in a personal pension plan, the minimum retirement age prescribed in Kenya is, early retirement age is 50. So that means I can say I want my journey to start at 50, because I don't want to be retired in 60, 65 when I'm feeling like I am old. But you know, that's an assumption from our end.
Yes.
Guys who are 65 out here, by the way, they look very young. Very, very young, you know. So people, once they make that decision to say, this is when I want mine to start, and that's one privilege that personal pension plans give you, the individual retirement arrangements. You choose your own retirement age. When do you start? Then as you start there, you have options. You have options of saying, if this lump sum that I have now accumulated, I would want it to pay me for life, you know, then I would go either what we call the annuity route, where we are outsourcing the pension from an insurance company, or decide that I want to stay within a trust arrangement through funds that we call income drawdown funds. Then income drawdown funds means that now you work with a fund manager. That fund manager helps you as you draw down on a monthly basis. The amount you still have inside there is also still invested. So you may actually put in money. By the end of the period, because the minimum drawdown period is 10 years, by the end of that period, you may find that actually your balance is more than what you had put in, if you managed it well. And that is part of like now what we do at Kuza. I have an income drawdown fund and I have a personal pension plan. So as I manage those two, I'm able to work with people based on what their needs are, based on what their targeted lifestyle will be. And we structure something very, very good for them. And the income drawdown is becoming a bit more popular now, because it allows someone to define themselves in that journey, which is a good thing. So when you're talking about annuity, you know, we're talking about the fixed amount that you agree with the insurer, and also the option of now drawdown. So you're saying that there's actually a chance to bend down the rules in terms of, if you went the annuity way, you can now go the drawdown way with your insurer or your pension plan or schema to just try and guess if you're getting 100,000 initially. So there's a plan you can make to now get 150,000. Well, at the point where you've retired, you have your lump sum like this, is it? So you have a choice. Do I surrender this lump sum to an insurance company? And then in exchange, they will give me a promise that they'll give me a monthly or quarterly, depending on the period that I choose, for life. that is annuity. You see, I've surrendered my lump sum.
Yes.
It's no longer my money. But you can also say, hey, wait a minute, there's another product here we call income drawdown. So instead of surrendering the lump sum, I'll put it in this fund. Then I'll now work with this person, the provider, to now help me be able to draw down a maximum of 12% at any given time, yet the lump sum still stays invested. So if you can make that decision, and I'm finding personally, I have a bias towards income drawdown because I don't surrender my check, you see? That means even my beneficiaries have a claim to a lump sum. At any given time, there is money available for them. But in the annuity route, the balance that my beneficiary can get will be dependent on how long I have lived. So the longer I live, the shorter the check. Yeah. The smaller the check they will get, because they'll be paid a balance of my guaranteed fund. Yeah. So I have a leaning towards income drawdown because that is what we do. I can structure something that even when the amount you start with, you can actually end up getting more and more as you continue if the investment environment is favorable. Yeah.
And you know, now that you talked about beneficiaries, you know, people are very scared to take life insurance, for instance, because somebody says, somebody told me one time that why should I take that life insurance and I do not have anyone? If you're looking at it from now, this angle of pensions, now, who gets what, you know? How do you now decide which member of your family will get this amount, this one will get this amount? Because now it has to be divided among the family members. So how is that decision made?
The decision? Well, it's normally an interesting subject because at the end of the day, if it is me who has saved, I have the leeway of deciding who do I onboard as a beneficiary when I am away. And the government is also always waiting, because if you don't pick anyone there, then the unclaimed financial assets authority is also waiting. So it can never be a vacuum. So you'd better make that decision and say that for me, these are my beneficiaries. And when you make that decision early enough and you keep it updated, you make the work easier for trustees to decide on the distribution of your benefits. Now, how do you distribute this? You know, parents will like saying, oh, I love my children equally, you know? So I'll take all of them. If they are two, like for me now, I'll do 50-50, you know? But the reality of life is such that the younger child has a longer life or a longer journey than the elder one. So if I was addressing this from not equal perspectives but equity, what would I do? I'll allocate slightly more to the younger child, and or let me put it this way, I'll allocate more to the older and then much more to the younger, so that the word less does not find its way, its way into my statement. Why? Because I am cognizant of this longer journey that the younger child has, because it depends. Maybe your youngest child is still in school, the other one has already finished school. But the moment all of them now get to maybe majority age and both of them are working, I can revert back to the 50-50 because now all of them are able. There is no one who we can say, you know, there are people who even at 45, 50, they still say, I'm an orphan. No, we need to redefine that and say, hey, the younger child, before majority age, that becomes a balance that we need to strike. It's equity, not equality.
Okay. I'm calling my mother after this to ask if I have the larger sum as the last one.
As the last one?
As the last one. And you know, now in cases where these beneficiaries now, they want to fight over whatever was given to them, how are these cases now solved? As much as there is a will that has been written that this amount goes to this one goes to this one, but come to land, you know, we see there's still vurugu every now and then on land matters. About pension, how are such cases solved?
The beauty with pension is that regulation has protected pension such that pension does not form part of the estate of a deceased person. So anyone rushing to get letters of administration and the like will be given everything else, but not pension. pension will be predominantly distributed based on my wishes, and those wishes are spelled out in a very simple document called the nomination of beneficiary forms. Once filled and updated, trustees for that particular scheme will respect what is there. But they still have discretion to vary it, because there are cases where maybe I did not update, or maybe there are any dependents who I did not include. So trustees have the leeway to vary. But first priority is that they want to respect and honor what I put there. So that's a call for all providers, all managers, all trustees, that encourage your members in the scheme to always keep that list updated. Yeah, because once we know that it does not form part of someone's estate, then letters of administration won't work here. Yeah, they'll distribute the cars, the house, the land, the cows, the goats. But when it comes to pension, it is what I put there, and my wishes should be respected.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
When you're talking about now the types, the types of tools that we have for planning for retirement, and NSSF, we talked about it, but how can I supplement what my employer is giving me? If I see that whatever I'm contributing towards my retirement plan is not enough, then how do I supplement whatever is made available to me?
Okay. Every existing retirement arrangement has the governing document called a trust deed and rules. By now, all trust deed and rules across all schemes should provide for that service lane I talked about, which is the additional voluntary contributions. So that is over and above what the scheme already said I should do. The scheme said I should do 6%. I am doing the 6%. But remember, I sat down and I mapped my journey. And I said, for me, I am working towards this target.
Yeah.
If I look at this 6% and 6% from employee, employer, or my 12% as a self-employed person is not getting me there, I have additional voluntary contributions that I should be able to make so that the monthly target of savings is actually achieved. So the platform, the infrastructure is there. So it's just the willingness. People talk about the pay slip cannot accommodate. But you see, even in the pay slip, what we call statutory deductions are the things that are non-negotiable.
Yes.
But everything else below that, it is you to make the decision. So it is you to say, hey, you know what? In my budget, I would want to push more towards my savings. And when you are younger, by the way, pile more there. As you get older, then start relaxing that bit so that your net also looks like it is growing because you pumped more earlier.
Yeah.
And the beauty with that is that money coming into the scheme early when you are young, it achieves what we call your money starts working for you. Yeah, because you're using the eighth wonder of the world. It's called compound interest.
Okay.
So compounding then steps in and helps your money to work towards generating more. And that means that if you are pushing more, when you're young, you don't have a lot of maybe responsibilities, just the basics. Live on the bare minimum. Save more. Then as responsibilities start coming in, what do? Then now relax the amounts that you are pushing towards your pension. Then there's that natural joy of, I have now more on my net. Yeah. You see? So there's a way it works on you psychologically to keep you happy every day, because now you're saving less as you come closer to your retirement. But if you didn't save early to take advantage of compound interest, chances are that you'll be forced here to do a lot, make the journey very, very steep, and that is what stresses many people. And that's why when it comes to retirement planning, workshops, trainings, and the like, we do a lot of disservice when we offer that to people who are just about to retire. They have very little room to wriggle, change, adjust here and there. The pay slip is, of course, in the ICU. So many things are happening. Yeah. So at that particular time, the space, the room to adjust is very small. Yeah.
When you talk about training, from where you sit, would you say that Kenyans are very, very well educated about, retirement and everything surrounding retirement, how they need to plan, how they need to save? would you say that a majority of Kenyans, and we're looking at it from 90% of Kenyans are not formally employed. So we have quite a very small number in the employment sector and a very huge number in the informal sector. So are we well informed about the conversation around retirement?
Okay, there is a lot happening in that space, but I can't really say we are there. No, we are still too far, but there's a lot happening around that space. I've seen even the regulator, Retirement Benefits Authority, is doing so much when it comes to sensitization, and we thank them for that. Then there are the stakeholders as well. We have the employers, we have the administrators of pension schemes, we have trustees who are now taking charge of that particular space, which is a good thing because coverage right now is still at below 30% coverage. So that means there's still work that needs to be done, especially in the informal sector. We need to do a lot of sensitization. So thank you for a show like this one. Yeah, because you're reaching the masses. Yeah, and there's something somebody is speaking which they can implement.
Yes. So maybe you can also tell them to just call in. If they have a question for you, a comment, there is a number on the screen. We'll be happy to hear from you this morning, even as we talk about this topic, preparing for retirement. And you can also interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. You know, we were talking about if somebody dies, you know, this one we're looking at it from the perspective of a parent, if he or she goes early. But say, you mentioned that retirement should start from the moment somebody starts, you know, getting their first salary. Say I contribute the first 5 years, the first 10 years, then I die, you know, then where does that money go? Say I wasn't thinking about my beneficiaries at that time. Does it mean that the government benefits from it, or do they now look at possible next of kin now to just come and take up the money?
Yeah, pension schemes are established as independent entities from the original employers who are setting it up, is it? So what happens is that though it is an independent entity, the trustees there would always work together with the parent organization to try and trace those next of kin or potential beneficiaries who would take over the benefits of this member. But should those efforts amount to null within a space of 2 years, then, of course, the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority comes in, so that now that is transferred there. Not that it is fully surrendered. I would want to be polite and say they keep it in custody for that potential beneficiary. Should they show up even 10 years down the line or somewhere in future, then they'll be able to find it there. So that is what the government says, and we believe them.
Okay. I wanted to ask about the verification process, you know. Say my sister, I'm not married at that time when, let's say I die, but I've contributed to my pension scheme. How is that verification done? And they come now to the conclusion and say, this is a possible beneficiary for so-and-so's retirement plan. So
we have the trustees who are mandated to at least work towards reaching the next of kin or the potential beneficiaries. They will work together with every other stakeholder, including that person's employer, including even local administration, to just establish that indeed whoever is being fronted is the best placed to take over this. But remember what we said earlier on, a deceased member's savings are not parts of their estate. So that person who has the letter of administration, before we even listen to them, we must first of all check who would be the next best placed beneficiary. Because you know, letters of administration are issued by courts, isn't it? So it may be because somebody argued their case better there, but there may be beneficiaries here. So those ones, even if they are minors, these monies would be kept in a trust arrangement, awaiting them to either get to majority age or facilitating their upkeep and needs even when they are young. Trustees do that through trust funds for minors.
Amazing. When we were starting, we talked about that before retirement, we have two options. That is the pension and the provident, which now the provident is now the lump sum.
Lump sum.
But which one would you recommend for someone to go for? And, just really, what is the difference between the two? I understand I've mentioned provident is the lump sum,
Yeah, good.
For the benefit of our viewer, what is the difference between the two, and which one would you recommend for someone to go for?
Okay. So what we call provident is a structure that when you have finished the accumulation journey, at the point where now you are retiring, it promises to pay you a lump sum, is it? Then now you decide what you would want to do with the lump sum. So it is now out of their jurisdiction. It is now within your jurisdiction to determine what do I do with this lump sum to now take me or carry me for the rest of my life. The pension one is where that mandate of what would help you is still left with the provider to say that for you, we can give you like a small lump sum, 1/3, because in Kenya we say there's always an opportunity to pigia mwili pole or asanti, depending on the journey, is it? So what happens there is that once you do that, the rest is now paid to you periodically, either monthly. That's what we call pension. So if it's paid from the scheme, it's pension. When it's outsourced so that an insurance company takes charge, then we call it an annuity. If it is in an income drawdown fund, then we call it a drawdown, is it? So what would I recommend as George?
Yes.
I would recommend a periodic payment because it gives you an opportunity to have a reason to look up to next end month.
And that is a pension?
That's a pension. Yeah, it's a pension, a drawdown, or an annuity.
Okay.
Both of them is just the definition of who is giving it. If it's an insurance company giving it, it's an annuity. If it's a scheme giving it, it's a pension scheme. If it is the income drawdown giving it, then it's an income drawdown fund. But you see, the pattern is the same.
Yeah, let's go back and break it down a little bit.
Okay.
Before retirement, do we have two options, which is the pension and the provident? And after, is in that where the annuity and drawdown now comes in? Which is which? Or they just come into play all at once?
They all come into play at once. By the time you are joining a scheme, you already know how it will pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because schemes have 3 questions they answer. Question number 1 is, how will I accumulate these benefits? It can be through me contributing, so that is defined contribution. Yes? It can also be through me simply sweating it. And that is where we have defined benefits. It will take your years of service, it will take your salary in a formula, and then do what? Pay you a benefit based on that. So you see that one, maybe you are not doing any contribution. So you're just accruing it because you have been around. So the how will I accumulate is question 1. Question 2 is how will I be paid at the end? So if I'll collect a lump sum and then decide what to do with it, that is a provident.
Yeah.
If I will wait to be getting something small every month, then that becomes a pension scheme. So this pension scheme and this provident scheme, when you arrive at that point where you are retiring, you see you already knew which option will pay you.
Yeah.
So the option that will have paid you a pension will still give you other options to say, do you want that pension from the scheme itself? Most schemes don't, because they don't want to sit with that liability. So they outsource it. So when they outsource it, it means that you are told, step out there and find out where would this pension, with this monthly payment be paid from? Would it be paid from an insurance company? Or will it be paid to you from an income drawdown fund? So you see now you have those 2 options.
Yeah.
Then you say, I want to go the income drawdown route. Then you're told, identify one, then these monies are transferred there, and then from there we continue. Why do I advocate for that? It's because our levels of financial literacy across the country are very, very low. In fact, it's almost impolite to say that an average Kenyan is financially illiterate. Yeah, because if we are not able to understand the workings of money, even with our monthlies, it becomes a challenge to say that you can trust somebody with a lump sum. We are our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
Give an old person who has not been seeing such amounts at retirement a check. You'll find them somewhere. Not necessarily. Very few go to the kanisa, but you'll find most of them somewhere down the coast, until the check comes back to manageable levels, and they have lost a whole lifetime. There is no chance to again accumulate such a lump sum. So lump sums, with lump sum management, people don't do very well. That's why today, we will not say that the richest person in Nairobi is this person who won the lottery last year. Do you even today, if someone challenged you, list the name of even one that you remember who won a lottery in the last 5 years, you would struggle. And if you drilled down to the lifestyle they are leading today, they may be worse off than before they were, before they got that money. So we are not the best when it comes to our financial management. And it's something that we need to keep on drilling, working on to help everybody.
I understand that maybe the regulatory authority should know that Kenyans are sort of financially literate. Let's just say it the way it is. So why would they be comfortable giving out this in provident, in a lump sum? I know it's somebody's money, it's your choice, but at the least, should there be just education before now giving this person the provident and telling them that these are the risk factors? You're not going to enjoy this for a lifetime. Probably you're going for enjoyment, like you say. Somebody is going to buy a piece of land that will stay there without liquidity. Yes, or marry a younger wife, and then nothing happens after that. So should there be sort of education just at the least level to let them know that the risk factors associated with being given the money in lump sum?
Well, that's one of the things. We, even in the industry as practitioners, we are charged with the responsibility of doing member education. And everybody who is running a scheme must tick that box at least once every year, that you gather the people together and you are able to explain to them and help them with this. But people skive. The attendance for such sessions, by the way, some people go like, let the older people, especially younger guys, they would find something else to do. So we are in an era whereby information may even be there, served, but there is nobody coming to consume it. Then we get to retirement. That's now, there's a saying that I even quoted in some book I've written. There's a book I've written called Dance With My Money. So in that book I say, and I borrowed this from somewhere, an unknown author who said that when people are happy and they enjoy the music, but when they are sad, they understand the lyrics. So the lyrics around financial management starts making sense when someone is now seeing that, by the way, I can now see the end of this payslip, meaning they are closer to their retirement. Then things now start making sense. That is the person who is now very thirsty, looking for information about retirement and the like, but it's the wrong time, because you have very little room to change anything. So in as much as the regulator is there trying to promote everything, we must also respect the fact that people need to make their own choices. Because otherwise, then they will come back and blame you and tell you you're the one who did this. It must be their decision. So if it's their decision, then empower them. Do a lot of financial literacy. Kuza, we are now known for that. We do a lot of that. And as we do that, then we are able to help people appreciate the fact that now I know. You see, even if I was in a provident plan and they call me for that check, actually my funds are provident. And they are provident because we believe we will work with you to a point whereby you now have the lump sum right in front of you, but you will still make the right decision. You will push that money to a drawdown and then continue, because that is the only way you will not come back crying. But that free will, the opportunity to make a choice and a decision is everybody's mandate, not the regulator, not your employer, not anyone else. You need to make that decision yourself.
So should property, for instance, be, part of a retirement plan? Say land, say I have a house somewhere, say, nina rent pale Airbnb's villas kule Mombasa. Should that be part of a retirement plan?
Well, let me say yes and no. Yes, to the point whereby the property you have ticks the box on housing for you. Because housing is one of the most pain points that retirees go through. Two of them, housing and medical. So if you can tick the box on housing, meaning you have a shelter, you have a place to put your head and house your family, for example, these other lists of properties in your portfolio, as you get closer to retirement, offload them. In retirement, and cash flow is king. Yeah. The more liquid or near liquid you are, the better for you and the better your life. There are so many people out here who are asset rich, but cash poor. Your assets today, at that point in retirement, those plots, those lands that you have, parcels here and there and the like under your name, may not pay your hospital bill. It's the unfortunate bit. Yeah, so what we say is accumulate them now, maybe when you're younger, but the moment you hit 45, start liquidating, but leave the one that will house you where we can know your address. Know that George stays here. That's okay. But the rest, go back to liquidity. Because if you don't, and you die, your beneficiaries will do exactly what you're refusing to do. They will sell them. Because how do your 3 or 2 kids share your 4-bedroom house? They can only do that by selling it. Yeah, so they'll do that.
Let's talk about now a situation where, you see, we're talking about land, for example. This person is retired, they bought this piece of land with their pension money. But as the land is just sitting there idle. How can they now liquidate it, you know, now to ensure that money is still coming in, even if I sell this particular piece of land, that the amount of money I'm going to get here is something that, you know, it's coming in long term. And is there such an option as well to liquidate in a manner that will ensure that money will flow? You know, when you're talking about retirement, we say getting to a state where working for me is an optional thing. So with liquidating a piece of land that for somebody who already retired and used it to buy it, is that an option?
Well, I think mistake number 1 is to use your pension money to buy land. That's a box that should have been ticked. Because let's look at it this way. Let me use the example I had earlier on. That I am contributing 6% into a pension arrangement. Or let me use the self-employed person who has to contribute 12% because there is no employer to do the other 6. So I'm doing 12% into my retirement pot, and this is what I'm accumulating. And truth be said, there is 88% that at times does not see the next month. Part of it pays tax, of course, you know, school fees and all that. But there's always an 88%, meaning they are close to 7 other opportunities of other 12% in the money that I'm taking home today. This is the portion through financial literacy and financial management that should tick the box for loans, mortgages, housing, school fees, and every other development. The 12%, though accumulated as my pension benefit, should not come back to tick these boxes in life. If they do, then it means I failed in my planning somewhere. So mistake number 1 is to say I'm getting my pension money to go and buy land. It's too late. Yeah, buy land when you are 30, 35. The moment you get to 45, start thinking about holding your investment in something that is either near cash or in more liquid form, which you can be able to convert very fast. Because that way then you'll assure yourself that you can join the throne where we say cash flow is king.
Cash flow is king.
Yes, it is.
And you know, I think a lot of people don't also realize that after 65, that is the retirement age, there is no chance to get a loan. So that is true, right?
Even mortgage, yeah. Mortgage today.
So if you're saying that somebody is starting to, you know, think about let's say investing after 65, is that really something that can work at 65? Given that I cannot get a loan after retirement at 65, I cannot get mortgage, as you say. So is it really a good option to try and invest after 65, or it's never too late?
Well, it is never too late. And the beauty of it is that we have so many financial advisors or investment firms that can handhold you at that particular point. If it's a space you've never been in, you can't wake up at age 65 and become an investment guru. No way. It must be something that you've been doing. And if you've not been doing it, accept to pay a small fee because someone else will help you do it. Yeah, and that is the best thing to do. Anyone who wants to retire and you're planning that this is what I want to do in my retirement, start it at least 15 years earlier. You will have learned the ropes. If you're going to be a business person, don't wake up with the retirement lump sum in the account and say, now I want to be a business person. There's a lot of school fees to pay in that space. And you will lose your money terribly. You'll entertain every idea, and you know this lump sum once gone, it's money gone. Yeah, so for investments, and I'm taking investments to mean that I am now allowing my money to sweat it for itself. Start early and always rely on an expert hand-holding. That way, you'll be good to go.
The investments should start early.
Yes.
I hope they caught that. Talk to us about guaranteed fund and segregated fund. Who gets what? Is it the employed? Is it better for those in informal sector? Just the thin line between the guaranteed fund and the segregated fund.
Okay. So let me start by defining the segregated fund. A normal natural fund should be such that when you put your money in there, your money should get a return that matches what the investment environment give. So investment environments definitely have seasons. There are times when things are good, there are times when things are bad. And the cycle that we used to see some time back, it got distorted a bit in our economy here, was that you would actually get around 4 good years, then 1 bad year. 4 good years, 1 bad year. Right now it's a bit distorted because our market is sensitive to everything, including politics and all that, So in a segregated fund, then you'd have the assets give you a return based on what the market gives. So all assets there would be marked to market, meaning if I bought this pen today at 20 shillings, I am not saying your pens are 20 bob.
And you're not marketing for them
And I'm not marketing for them either. I'm just giving an example. That if I say this is 10 bob, is it? And then 6 months down the line, something happens in the market and they are flooded. So what would have fetched 10 shillings is now fetching 8. So it means in my books, I need to record that as an unrealized loss until I sell that pen. So if I sell it at 8, I crystallize the loss of 2 bob. But if I still hold it, it may actually now go to 12. So tomorrow, a few months down the line again, now I'll book a value of 12 shillings. You see that movement from 10 to 8 to 12? Is the reality of segregated funds. Now, people have different risk appetites. There are people who do not like that bumpy ride. And they'll be telling you,
nobody likes it, George. Nobody likes a bumpy ride.
No. The timing of your exit, you see here I say don't sell it. The timing of your exit is what matters. And that is what some people don't appreciate. Maybe at times because by the time you want that money, you want it so urgently because it's the only money you can see. But you need to time your exit such that do not exit when the market is sleeping. Exit when the market is up there. That is the best time. So that is the reality of segregated funds. So what insurance companies came to offer was to say, hey guys, we have a cushion. Instead of falling to this lower, we can guarantee you some cushion on the floor to say that the minimum return you can ever get, the highest I see in the market is around 5%. So we'll give you 5, some people say 4, and the like. So that is what now we call the guarantee. So you are guaranteed a minimum return. So there is a year when segregated funds can actually give you a -2. But the insurance company will say, as we have given you a guarantee, so you the lowest, even if the market is sinking, the lowest you'll not touch the floor, the lowest you can go is up to 5%. And people have gotten comfort in that, in the guaranteed. Now, in a good year, yes, returns are up there at the ceiling. So what happens? Like last year, my fund gave, on the personal pension, 37% return. See, it's a very good year. But the highest that I've seen insurance companies giving is 15. That's the highest. So it means that the difference between 15 and 37, who is pocketing that bit? The insurance company. Why? Because they promised you a cushion when things will be bad. But remember, in life, we have more good years than bad years. But the choice is for the person to make. Do I go guaranteed and get the market as it is? That return, if it's lower, I'll not pick my money. I'll wait, because the market will wake up. It never sleeps more than 6 months. That's the difference between the two.
As we come to the tail end of this conversation, you know, you mentioned something about tax exemption, and this is something that people might want to just hear more about. Talk to us about the tax benefits, you know, of being in a pension plan. How is it structured exactly? You know, we hear about maybe when you're contributing, say, 20,000 Kenya shillings to a pension plan or scheme, then you're going to pay less taxes, or you're going to be exempted. So talk to us about that as you tell us more about Kuza Asset Management Limited as your parting shot.
Thank you. In a pension arrangement, let me map the journey of the shilling this way. It is being contributed, call that the funding stage, is it? Once it lands into the fund, it is being invested, call that the investment stage. Then after the journey is finished, there is the payout. Now you're taking the money back. Now what tax comes in to promise you is to say that you are doing something very good saving for your retirement. Because behind the scenes, you're actually saving the government the burden of sustaining you when you retire. So they give you that concession. So at funding stage, the first 30,000 shillings you contribute is not included in the calculation for your pay as you earn, which is the tax we pay monthly on our income, is it? So if I earn 100,000 and I contribute 30 to the pension scheme, my pay as you earn will be calculated on 70K, meaning I'm paying less tax. When this money comes into the scheme and the money also gets invested, the investment income in that scheme is tax-free. You see? Then when I am again leaving at the end, stage 3, depending on how long I've been in the scheme, I'll still also be given some tax concessions. Before retirement age and I am leaving, every 1 year I've been a member of this scheme, there's 60,000 shillings tax-free, you see. If I waited until normal retirement age, 0 tax. So you see, those are the tax advantages you get. Out here, try invest somewhere outside the pension arrangement, that income will be taxed. And that's now where we are at Kuza. We do investments. Kuza is a licensed and registered fund manager with Capital Markets Authority and Retirement Benefits Authority. We offer the best money market fund in the region. And we've been known in terms of our outcome and delivery to nurture what people have in terms of their financial journeys. That's where we even get our name. Kuza in Swahili means to nurture. So we nurture people's financial journeys through bespoke solutions. That includes individuals who are looking to invest. We help them grow their money, sweat their money, get their money to work for them. On the retirement side, again, it's another journey, because that is our philosophy. Investment is a journey, retirement is a journey.
So where can we find George Oyuga and Kuza? George
Oyuga and Kuza. Our physical address is in Upper Hill, Prism Towers, 12th floor. It's on 3rd Gong Avenue. That's where we are. And then in terms of George Oyuga, definitely I'll be found there. Can I give an email?
You may.
goyuga@kuza.africa.
Absolutely, perfect.
Great.
And you know, I love the way you linked that conversation with the tax and what Kuza does. You will go to heaven. Now, that brings us to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much for watching. We were talking about preparing for retirement. We were asking, when do you need to start planning for retirement? George here says, as soon as you start getting your first salary. My name is Ann Odida. Up next is banana farming. Stay with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. Enjoy the rest of your day.